There is trouble brewing in the jungle in Cincinnati as Trey Hendrickson is growing more and more frustrated with contract negotiations with the Cincinnati Bengals organization, and that's good news if you are a Washington Commanders fan. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Before we talk about Trey Hendrickson and the increased likelihood that he could become a Washington Commander this year, let me know down there in the comments section. What is the percent chance, as we stand here today, that Trey Hendrickson becomes a Washington Commander via trade this offseason? Put it on a scale of 0, meaning no chance he gets traded to the Commanders, to 100%, meaning he's on his way to the nation's capital. Let me know your take down there in the comment section to kick off today's show. So here we go, man. Trey Hendrickson is turning up the heat on the Cincinnati Bengals organization as he has addressed the media this week multiple times, talking about how things have gotten quote-unquote personal in contract negotiations between him, his representation, and the Cincinnati Bengals. This is what Hendrickson has had to say this week. No communication has taken place between my camp and the organization post-draft. The offers prior to the draft did not reflect the vision we shared and were promised last offseason if I continued to play at a high level. Coaches are aware of these past conversations. Rather than using collaboration to get us to a point to bring me home to the team, they are no longer communicating. I have been eagerly awaiting a resolution of this situation, but that's hard to do when there is no discussion and an evident lack of interest in reaching mutual goals. If I sat here with 4 sacks, they'd want a pay cut and some money back. I'm not going to apologize for the rates being paid to defensive ends in the National Football League. And then there's been a number of social posts out there, specifically on X, talking about what happened today at the Cincinnati Bengals training facility where Hendrickson actually spoke to the media today. Paul Denner Jr., who covers the Cincinnati Bengals, said Trey Hendrickson just spent 25 minutes with us and had a lot to say and didn't hold back. The word quote-unquote disappointed was used often. Said his statements have been quote-unquote provoked. Asked explicitly if he will play on the current deal, he said quote-unquote no. Stay tuned, much more to come. So listen, man, this is not good if you are a Cincinnati Bengals fan, and this is terrific news if you are a fan of the Washington Commanders and you hope that they land this guy before the start of the 2025 regular season. It sounds like they're far apart in negotiations, and it sounds like the Cincinnati Bengals have straight up disrespected Trey Hendrickson in these negotiations. I think Trey even said today that Zach Taylor, the head coach of the team, went up to him and said that, like, if he doesn't show up to mandatory minicamp, they're going to fine him. This is the exact quote. Being sent 30 days before mandatory minicamp, that if I don't show up, I will be fined, alludes to the fact that something won't be done in that time frame. So he's not expecting a deal to get done before mandatory minicamp, which begins in June, which is still a while from now. And I think the big question now is, does this kind of latest push from Trey Hendrickson and his camp, give Cincinnati some incentive to cave to his demands and give him some more money? Obviously, Cincinnati has their number that they feel is fair, and Trey Hendrickson and his team obviously feel like that is an insulting number that they can't possibly take. So somebody's going to have to give here. It does not sound like Trey Hendrickson is messing around here, saying that he will not play in 2025 for the Bengals on his current contract. He needs to get a new deal this offseason or he will not be playing NFL football. And it also sounds like the Bengals right now are not willing to cave to his demands and have apparently ghosted him and have not been engaging in contract negotiations with him since before the NFL draft. So this situation, guys, it's very explosive. And if Washington can get him, they absolutely should do it. This is the type of move that can take this offseason, which to me has been like a B+, A- level of offseason from Adam Peters and the Washington Commanders front office, all the way to like an A+, because you'd be adding the NFL's sack leader to your defense, a defense that is in desperate need of a true number 1 edge rusher. With all due respect to guys like Dorrance Armstrong, Dietrich Wise, who they brought in free agency, and Cleveland Ferrell, none of these guys are legit number 1 edge rushers and pass rushers in the National Football League, whereas Trey Hendrickson, over the last 2 seasons, has put up 17.5 sacks, multiple forced fumbles, multiple TFLs. This is the type of game-wrecking presence that the Washington Commanders have been waiting for a very long time, and he could be the type of impact on defense that Jayden Daniels was for the offense last year. This guy's the type of superstar talent that can take a defense from a decent unit in 2024 to a really, really good unit and a potential top 10 unit in 2025. You can see here Hendrickson Hendrickson's career PFF grades, really good throughout his career, and it's only gotten better every single season he's been in the league. Last year ranked top 10 in PFF grading, and of course led the league in sacks with 17 and a half. And if you want to see the type of impact that this type of player can have on a defense, here's a nice Twitter post from Warren Sharp talking about the difference between the Bengals defense with Trey Hendrickson versus without Trey Hendrickson. They're 8th in success rate, 11th in completion percentage allowed, EPA per attempt 19th, 8th in passer rating allowed, and 12th in pressure rate. And then without him on defense, they are dead last in all 5 of those categories. So Trey Hendrickson adding that one player to your defense has the potential to completely shift a defensive unit when he is on the field. And right now, if these negotiations continue to devolve and the Bengals don't pay up for him, which it doesn't seem likely at this point that they will, this is an opportunity that the Washington Commanders cannot afford to miss out on. Now, you might be saying at home, Jack, the Commanders don't have a lot of draft picks in 2026, so what's the strategy here? And I think the strategy is you do a pick swap in 2026 and then you straight up give them a pick for 2027. So this is what I would do. All right, the Bengals can still get Dorrance Armstrong. I'd be willing to let go of Armstrong because the Bengals would probably want to replace Hendrickson with somebody that they can trust on the field as a starting caliber player. They just drafted Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M in the first round. He is their Trey Hendrickson replacement. Dorrance Armstrong can be a perfect number 2 option for them in the interim. Then you also swap first-round picks and second-round picks this year. So the Commanders would get the Bengals' second-round pick this year, and the Bengals would get the Commanders' first-round pick. So the Bengals essentially wouldn't have a second-rounder, but they would have 2 firsts, and then the Commanders wouldn't lose any draft picks in terms of the number of picks that they would have this year. And then you throw in a 4th-round draft pick in 2027. I think that this is a deal that is fair for both sides. It allows the Commanders to get Trey Hendrickson without straight-up giving up a draft pick in 2026. I think it is something that works for both sides here. Make sure you let me know down there in the comment section, would you accept this trade? Give me an A for accept or D for decline. For me personally, if this is something the Bengals are willing to do, I am absolutely submitting this as fast as I possibly can to make Trey Hendrickson a Washington Commander. But this will be the pinned comment on today's show. In just a second here, I'm going to let you know about our friends today at Fanatics. While I'm talking about Fanatics today, let me know if you accept or decline this trade offer from Cincinnati. Now with that, let's have word from our sponsor today at Fanatics. And we're talking about a trade of a potential big-time player on defense. The Commanders have already traded for a big-time player on offense in Deebo Samuel, and he's wearing the number 1. Can't wait to see him in that number 1 jersey wearing the Commanders colors this year. And if you're with me on that and you want to get a Deebo Samuel jersey in your collection today, you can go chatsports.com/Deebo. The link to that is in the comments and description of today's show. It also helps out the channel because Fanatics kicks us part of the proceeds on every single purchase when you use our link, chatsports.com/Deebo. So help us out, help yourself out, and get yourself a new Deebo Samuel jersey in your closet today. So now shifting to a different trade rumor here, where a new report from Pro Football Network claims that it is quote-unquote likely that the Kansas City Chiefs will trade wide receiver Hollywood Brown sometime this offseason. Now you take a look at Hollywood Brown's profile here. He's still just 27 years old, former first-round pick. He doesn't bring a lot of size to the table at 5'9", 180 pounds, but he's known as a burner, an electric route runner, and a deep threat on the outside as a true Z receiver. Now he does have a little bit of a drop issue throughout his career, and he has had multiple injuries, including a separated shoulder last year that took him out for most of the 2024 campaign. So he's definitely not without his risks, but this is somebody that the Arizona Cardinals, that Cliff Kingsbury, traded for him when he was still head coach of the Cardinals. He spent 2 seasons there in the desert with his buddy and college teammate, Kyler Murray. Honestly, it didn't go as planned. He didn't have the most productive seasons there in Arizona, and then he spent last year injured with the Kansas City Chiefs. But you might be saying at home that the issue with this is that, didn't Kansas City just re-sign Hollywood Brown this offseason? Yes, they just did. So the question becomes, why would they trade somebody they just signed to a contract this year? Well, Anthony Palacios, who had this report, had this to say in his article breaking it down. After the Xavier Worthy offseason drama, the Chiefs were quick to re-sign Brown to a new deal in case they were going to be without the second-year receiver for the season. season. However, it looks like it's all positive signs for Worthy. Even though Rashee Rice and Worthy will take up most of the slot snaps, the emergence of Jalen Royals could come at the wrong time for Brown. So you take a look here at Hollywood Brown's numbers. He hasn't been the same player since he left the Baltimore Ravens back in 2021, where he had over 1,000 yards, almost got to 100 catches. He had 6 touchdowns that year as well. And obviously last year just played in 2 regular season games with the Kansas City Chiefs, just got 9 catches in the regular season for 15 yards. Didn't even average a yard per catch. So that is something where he has not been particularly productive, and his production has actually gone down every season since that 2021 campaign where he got to 1,000 yards. And part of the reason for that is his injury history. I mean, just last year, separated shoulder, he missed 15 regular season games for. He also missed 5 games in 2022 with a fractured foot. He had a Liz Frank fracture in his foot as well. So he's had foot issues throughout his career, and that would certainly be a risk that the Washington Commanders would be taking on if they end up trading for him. And that really is the question here. Not only is it a question of whether or not Kansas City would be willing to trade Hollywood Brown, it's also a question of whether or not Washington should even be interested in him, given that they did trade for Deebo Samuel already this offseason. And personally, I actually wouldn't hate it for the right price. For a late day 3 pick, getting a guy like Hollywood Brown, who is experienced in this offense with Cliff Kingsbury, somebody that is an electric route runner and a true deep threat to pair with Jayden Daniels. Sure, there's some risks involved, but if you're giving up like a late day 3 pick, I don't really mind it because I like Noah Brown, but I don't know if he's necessarily like a great weapon like I know Hollywood Brown could be if he can stay healthy. And the same thing goes for guys like Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane. This is a team that is trying to win now. Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane are completely unproven entities. Now, you're hoping that those guys can turn into nice contributors in this wide receiver room, but I think if you really want to complete this group heading into the season, adding a guy like Hollywood Brown is absolutely something that could be a really good fit here in Washington, in my opinion. Now, obviously, the Chiefs need to be, willing to come to the table. We still don't know for sure that they would be willing to let go of Hollywood Brown, but this is something that I would consider, all right? I would do a pick swap, late day 3, send them a 5th-round pick. They get a 6th-round pick back. You don't lose any draft picks in terms of the total draft picks in the 2026 NFL Draft, and you get a legit number 2 wide receiver to pair with Terry McLaurin here in Hollywood Brown. And obviously, you still got Deebo Samuel, and Deebo is going to be your chess piece on offense, but he's not a true outside number 2 receiver. With this trade, Hollywood Brown would be that for you, and it would really allow you to be creative with the ways that you use Deebo Samuel in this offense. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Would you make this trade, yes or no? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Would you bring Hollywood Brown in for a mid-day 3 pick swap? Now, before I go here, guys, I do have some disappointing news that I just want to vent about a little bit here, because I've been saying for a while that I wanted the season opener of the NFL season this year to be a rematch of the NFC Championship game between the Eagles and the Commanders. Instead, the NFL comes out and gives it to the fucking Cowboys, and I'm so pissed that they did this, all right? I get it. Eagles-Cowboys, it's a great rivalry. I get it. They just added George Pickens, which is going to be, it's going to be interesting to see on opening night. But listen, man, this is going to be the new rivalry of the NFC East, in my opinion. These two teams are going to be jockeying for the top of this division for the next half decade, whereas Brian Schottenheimer and George Pickens is going to be in prison eventually. Those guys are going to be stuck in 3rd place. I wanted this matchup here because you got Jayden Daniels, the future superstar quarterback of the league, heading into his 2nd season, potentially starting an MVP campaign here in 2025, going up against the team that just won the Super Bowl in a divisional matchup. That just seemed like the perfect matchup to start this NFL season. Instead, you're going to have Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys rolling into the link there in Philadelphia, where they're probably going to get piss-pounded by Saquon Barkley. I mean, I just think this is a worse matchup here and a bad decision by the National Football League, even though a lot of Cowboys fans are definitely going to be watching that game. Now, we also got some scheduling news for the Washington Commanders here, where in Week 11, they're going to be traveling to España, Spain, and, of course, Madrid to play Nick Roloff's Miami Dolphins here, and I'm excited for it, man. You got I think it's a very Spain-looking matchup. I don't even know what that means, but it just looks like a matchup that would be playing in a Spain game. But I'm excited for that for sure. It's an international game. The Commanders organization hasn't played overseas in multiple years. I think it's close to a decade at this point. And then we also got an update about Week 16 on a Saturday, December 20th, so the week before Christmas. The Commanders will be playing the Eagles at home in Week 16, so that's towards the end of the season. That game right there might decide the division there in Week 16, so very excited about that one. That'll be it for today's edition of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports. Thank you guys for stopping by today. If you made it to the end of today's show, know it was a little bit of a longer one today, type those real ones in all caps down there in the comment section so we can see everybody that made it to the end of the show. Thank you guys for sticking with me to the end today here on the Commanders Report. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we got more Commanders content coming your way. Tomorrow, the NFL schedule release. I will be doing a video on that on this channel tomorrow, so make sure you click that subscribe button for the very latest.